Okay, those are the reasons why company, organization, or employer need to conduct performance appraisal. Okay, there are 4 reasons. In the next part, in this part, we are going to discuss, okay, what are considered as effective performance appraisal systems. So in this section, we are going to discuss 5 characteristics of effective system. Okay, for an effective performance appraisal system, the system that we design need to be strategically fit, okay, need to have content validity, need to be accurate, need to be fair, and need to be practical. Okay, let's look at one by one. Okay, what is meant by strategic fit? Okay, the performance appraisal system should be aligned with the organization's strategy. Okay, the performance appraisal system should measure different dimensions of organizational strategy. Okay, why? Because the appraisal system, the appraisal form that we use should contain the desired behavior that the organization want in their employees. Okay, what is meant by desired behavior? Desired behavior means behavior that contribute directly or contribute indirectly to the organization's strategy and mission. Okay, for example, sometimes when we design organization or performance systems, performance appraisal system, we always being carried out by things which are not important. Okay, I give you an example. In Malaysia, we always consider or focus on the attendance. Okay, at what times the employee come to work. Bear in mind, it is important aspect. Okay, especially if the jobs consider working for a certain numbers of time or certain hours. However, if the person involved in strategic making, or if the person involved in business strategy, business development, or the person involved in conducting advertisement or promoting the organizations to a potential customers, their work performance is not necessarily related to what time they come to the office. Okay, why? Performance in this case is related on their ability to carry out their main responsibility. The last example, the persons need to advertise, to market, to make the company visible, okay, in the social media narrative, for example, social media space, for example. So, if we are measuring his attendance as his key performance indicator or as his performance appraisal criteria, we are basically not aligning our assessment of performance appraisal with the company or with the department strategy. Okay, sometimes a person can perform better in their work when they are not at their work. Okay, when their work requires a wider or more flexible working environment. Second characteristic, okay, a good or effective performance appraisal system must have content validity. Okay, we come across quite a number of times about validity. Okay, we have construct validity, we have criterion validity, we have content validity, and we have face validity. Okay, when we are discussing about selection methods, we are talking about one type of criterion validity, which is predictive validity. But in this case, we are talking about content validity. Content validity refers to the ingredients, the contents of appraisal that we are looking, which measure what it's supposed to measure. Okay, if a lecturer is evaluated based on their main responsibility, teaching, research and publication, research grant, for example, commercializations, academic administration, and suddenly you are asking about their capability to attract, financial resources or attract new students. So basically, we are not having a good content validity in their job scope. Why? Because their main responsibility is not related to the criteria. Okay, coming back, content validity. A good and effective performance appraisal system must have content validity. So performance appraisal system needs to cover all of the job domain. This means that the performance appraisal should be neither contaminated or deficient. Okay, we are going to look at one by one. Why? Sometimes, like we have discussed before in job description, they are routine work. They are non-routine work. Okay, sometimes we are being evaluated based on our non-routine work. Okay, or when you have to be in charge with convocation, be in charge with student orientation, be in charge of student program, while in fact your main responsibility is business development. Your main responsibility is audit. Okay, your main responsibility is doing budgets or financial report, for example. So it's totally mislead from your main responsibility. Okay, most of the time performance appraisal that have been practiced in Malaysia are contaminated or deficient. What contaminated means is factors that are not part of the job are included in the performance appraisal. Okay, I give you an example. For lecturers professions before, okay, not now, before, people don't see commercialization as part of the responsibility of the lecturers or academics. Why? For them, commercialization is too industrial related activities. For them, they're doing research, okay, they're doing teaching, they're doing lecture, they write, okay, they apply for research grant, they conduct their research. But one aspect that people don't understand is commercialization is an aspect of application of knowledge. Okay, when you have the knowledge, you need to apply them. Okay, one mediums of application of knowledge is through commercialization. However, commercialization is not the only medium. Okay, people can apply their knowledge through teaching. People can apply their knowledge through community engagement. So when you include a factor which is not related to the part of the job, so basically the performance appraisal is contaminated. Okay, say for example, some of us here is the internal auditor, but suddenly he or she or Puan Fasha in this case need to be mentor to the human resource personnel. Okay, not to the internal audit officers. So basically, it's not related to her main job. And the worst case scenario happened when she is evaluated based on her performance as a mentor to human resource personnel. So basically, the performance appraisal is contaminated because unrelated factors are included in the performance appraisals. Okay. Secondly, most of performance appraisal system are deficient. Okay, what deficient mean? Important aspect of the job is not included as part of the performance appraisal. So this is what happened. Okay, when we discussed about job description before, all of us agreed that most of our unroutine work, okay, work that we have to do once a year, work that we have to do once for every semester, work that we have to do every 2 months, every 3 months, for example. It's unroutine work, but it does requires a lot of effort. Okay, it does requires a lot of responsibility and commitment from us. But these factors are not factored in, are not included in our performance appraisal. It shows that some of our responsibility for our real work, okay, kerja hakiki, are not included in our performance appraisal. So this is an example of deficient performance appraisals. Okay, when these two happen, contaminated and deficient performance appraisal, we can say that the performance appraisal system have low content validity. Okay, the next characteristic of effective performance appraisal system is accuracy. Okay, by now, I think we are already aware that there are a lot of problems with the current practice. What accuracy of performance appraisal means? Okay, accuracy of performance appraisal means that the performance score of an employee is accurately reflect the true levels of the employee performance. Okay, when an appraisal score is higher or lower than what is warranted by the employee's level of performance, the system loses its effectiveness. Why? Because it's no longer accurate. When appraisals are inaccurate, the system dependent on appraisal will also suffer. We can no longer get to know whether the training program is effective or not. We can no longer get information whether the selection system that we use is effective or not. Okay, coming back to the research purposes. Okay, remember that in performance appraisals, we are not only looking at evaluating or punishing or giving raise or promotion or rewards. We also look from developmental perspective. So in this case, we need an accurate estimations of true level of performance so that we can identify opportunity for development. We can identify problems. We can improve system. Okay, what happened? Like I shared with you before. Okay, what happens? In certain organizations, people think that they have high sympathy. So when there are people who perform less than 80% of their yearly performance criteria, so the superior, the manager, the supervisor, they think that if they get less than 80%, the person will not receive yearly salary increment. So they feel sympathy because the person is have a young family, a wife is not working, or spouse is not working, a very young children, and etc. etc. So they still give 80% performance levels to the person, even though the person's true performance is not up to the standards. Okay, this is an example of accuracy. You don't give a proper score to the person. On the other hand, some situations, some company, they are having resources issues. Okay, if employee achieve a certain level of performance, say for example 95%, the persons are entitled for rewards or for bonuses. So in this case, say for example, out of 100 employees, 20% achieve that target, but the company budgets only allow for 10%. So what happened? There will be 10% or 10 employees who will be rated lower than 95%, 94, 93, 90%. Okay, so these people are not entitled to get that salary or to get that bonus. So what happens? That system also not accurate. Why? Because their performance has been lowered down, while in fact their real performance is basically 95% and above. Okay, those are the two examples of accuracy problem. When people rated higher, while in fact the person is not up to the standards, or people rated lower, while in fact the person's performance are much more better than that. Okay, next characteristic of effective performance appraisal system is fairness. So what is fairness? Fairness is basically user's reaction. User here refers to the employee's reaction of the perceived fairness and usefulness of the performance appraisal system, which means that our employee understand that the system that being used or implemented in your company, in your organization is useful and is fair to every employees. Okay, there are 4 characteristics of fair performance appraisal system. First, we need to give the system give adequate notice for applicable performance criteria. What it means here that some company conduct performance appraisal twice a year. Okay, which means that every 6 months. Okay, they have interim performance appraisal and they have year at the end of the year. Okay, so in this example, you need to give a proper or appropriate or adequate notice to your employee that you are conducting performance appraisal observation. You are conducting performance appraisal activities from which period to which period. Okay, give adequate notice. Okay, and secondly, fair hearing. What fair hearing means is explanation of why ratings are given in a particular way. Okay, it's a good practice. Okay, most of the time, when we conduct performance appraisal, we only give the score. We only give the result without giving the reason why this year they get 90% and why last year they only got 90% or 80%. Okay, so there must be a reason why. This reason will serve as a positive or constructive feedback to your employees to improve their performance. Okay, third characteristic of fair performance appraisal system is evidence-based judgment. What evidence-based judgment means that we use standardized performance criteria and process throughout all of our employees and throughout all of our process. Standardized performance criteria and process are chosen based on systematic procedures. Okay, not based on common understanding or based on assumption. Okay, and last characteristic is employee participation in the performance appraisal process. Okay, what is rare to happen in Malaysia, for example, the employee involved in the evaluation. Okay, well, in fact, we have the opportunity to ask the employee to rate themselves. Okay, how do I rate my performance as a lecturer? How do you rate your performance as internal auditor, as business development officer, or as a financial controller or financial officer, Busra, for example, in this case? Okay, we can evaluate ourselves and we can compare our own evaluation to ourselves and other people's evaluation of our performance. Okay, this is an example of participation in the performance appraisal process. Okay, a fair, a useful and accurate performance appraisal feedback improve employees' performance. Okay, the last characteristic of effective performance appraisal system is very practical. In other words, the system should be practical itself. Okay, the practicality of the performance appraisal system that we have. You can have a very advanced, complex and complicated system, and you can have a very straightforward, simple and easy to use system. Okay, whichever system that you want to use, they must be practical. There is no point to have a complex, advanced and time-consuming system if it's not practical. If you cannot implement in your organization, people don't understand, raters don't understand, employees think it's basically unfair. So it's not practical. So the choice of deciding to choose each or any of the system must also consider the practicality aspects of the system. Okay, performance appraisals need to be perceived as practical and easy to use. If the performance appraisal form is too long, complicated and difficult to understand, raters themselves, which is the managers, people who are in charge in doing the performance appraisal, will not be motivated to be accurate in their writings. Okay, because it's too complicated and they themselves don't understand it. Okay, so these are basically the 5 characteristics of performance appraisal. Okay, good and effective performance appraisal system. Okay, they should be strategically fit, have content validity, are accurate, fair and practical.